Week 1 is an introduction and welcome with Professor Aditi Mehta and Kaela Sanborn-Hum.
Hello, good evening, welcome everyone. So my name is Aditi Mehta. I'm an assistant professor of urban studies at the University of Toronto. I'm very excited to be here. I'm here with Kaela. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Kaela. I just graduated from a master's program at U of T in geography, and I am an assistant for Aditi.
Well, so Kaela has worked incredibly hard to design the curriculum for this course. So if you like something, you can thank Kaela, and if you don't like something, you can tell me. So basically, the way this course will work is it's a 9 to 10 week course. We'll talk about why it's 9 to 10 weeks momentarily. But the idea behind the course is really to get everyone here in the room to start thinking about their urban environments and the neighborhood you live in, and gain some skills to address any issues in your urban environment or the neighborhood that you live in that you want to see change, or that you dislike, or that you are passionate about. And so what we've done is we've organized a series of different speakers that will come and talk about different topics each week. So we're kicking off the course today to sort of introduce you to how it will work and what's going on. And we'll also be sort of advising on projects that we're going to ask you to do throughout the course. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but basically the class is every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. As you know, dinner will be served at 5:30. Hopefully we can get started each week at 6 p.m. because we have guest speakers coming with limited time and schedules, and we don't want to eat up into our course time. So please do be in the classroom and ready to go by 6 p.m. And by the end of the course, the completion of the course, you'll receive a certificate from the Urban Studies program at University of Toronto, which is where I'm housed. And there's a long-standing partnership between the Urban Studies program and the Toronto Centre for Learning and Development, and this course has taken many iterations. So in the past, it was a program evaluation course. There was a pause for a few years, and now we're back and we've redone the curriculum to be this course about community leadership. And so as I said, the purpose of today is really to delve into what we're going to do, how it's going to work, also for you to tell us what you want to learn, because we can sort of still add to the curriculum and modify things and show you where you can get resources. So first and foremost, we have a course site. So how many of you are pretty comfortable with using the internet and use your email on a daily basis, would you say? Okay, so about more than half. That sounds good. Okay, so this is our course site. So the link is here at the top. And I believe we have all of your email addresses. So we'll send you an email that kind of goes over everything we're speaking about today. So this link will be there. And when you go to the link, you'll come to a page that looks like this. And this page or this website has everything you need to know about the course. So it has the schedule, who's coming to speak when. You'll be able to access the readings through the Pages website as well. You'll see on the left-hand corner, it says Pages, announcement, discussion, all of that. So one of the things we're trying to do right now is get all of you into the course site so that if we send an announcement or post an announcement, it'll come straight to your email. We haven't figured that out, so for now we will just email you. So don't worry about it. And you can access, but if you go to this link, you can access everything that you need to for the course. And as you can see, we have Dawar here who is videotaping us. So everything that happens here, all of the lectures will be recorded, and within a week, those videos will be posted on this course site. So if you want to go back and watch the lecture, you can do that. If for one session you were sick or you couldn't make it, you can go back and watch it. And you'll also be able to share the video of the lecture with any of your colleagues or friends or people who you think should watch the video. And I should also mention, and you probably already know this, is you'll only receive the Urban Studies certificate if you've attended all of the courses. You're allowed to miss one. So if you miss more than one, then I believe you cannot receive the certificate. So that's how the course works. Okay, so we want to get started with something a little bit fun. We want all of us to get to know each other better, and we want everyone to introduce themselves. And we hope to do this by having you answer 2 questions. So the first is we would like you to create a literal or figurative map answering this question: how did you get here today? So there's markers and paper all over the place. And so we'll do an example of what we're asking. And I think we'll give you 1 minute to present your map after you make it. So you have to be very concise in how you introduce yourself and show your map. And then actually what we'll do is we'll collect them at the end of class, and I will scan them and put them on the course site so everyone can see each other's maps. So make sure you put your name in the corner. And then we also want you to think about this question of what do you hope to learn from the course, because we are taking copious notes about all of the feedback you tell us, and we can sort of change and modify what we have planned. And so actually, when you're making your maps and thinking about this question, I'll go back to the slide with the schedule so you can see all the topics that we have covered, and then you can add anything and we can think about it. So before we get started with this, I'll give a more formal introduction of myself so you know more about who I am, and then I will show you your map. That's okay. But so as I said, I'm an assistant professor of urban studies. I've been teaching in the urban studies program at the University of Toronto for about 5 years now. I moved here from Boston, Massachusetts, where I was doing my PhD in urban studies and planning. And once I moved here, I became really interested in Regent Park. I actually didn't know anything about the neighborhood, but before I went into academia to study to be a professor, I actually worked in affordable housing development. So I worked for an affordable housing developer in the United States, and I was working in a lot of social housing or public housing neighborhoods. And then, hi, welcome. And so then when I moved here, I knew there was a lot of redevelopment going on in this neighborhood, and so I wanted to learn a lot about it. I connected with Focus Media Arts, so I've been teaching a course with them for the past 4 years, where half of the class is U of T students, and then the other half of the class is residents. So if you're interested in that, I'm teaching it in the winter, and we can talk more about it. And I'm just very committed to community-engaged learning and working with community-based nonprofits. So that's my more formal bio. But let me show you my map, because I'm asking you all to make a literal or figurative map of how we got here today. So this is my map. I'm not very artistic, so I didn't really draw a map or make any pictures, but if you are artistically inclined, I encourage you to be very creative with this ask. But basically, so you have to time me for 1 minute. So here, do you have your phone?
I got my phone.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you all will have 1 minute. And then when the timer goes off, it's done. Whatever I said, I said. So I'll try to do this in 1 minute. Okay, so basically I was born in New Delhi, India, and then my parents immigrated to Syracuse, New York when I was just a newborn, and we lived there for 7 years. And then I moved to Bridgewater, New Jersey, where I did most of my elementary school. And then my family moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where I went to high school. And then from there, I on my own moved to Ithaca, New York, where I attended Cornell University as an undergrad. And then when I was in university, I traveled a bit, and I wanted to live in Europe, so I lived a bit in Rome and Berlin. And then I moved to Washington, D.C. for my very first job, where I was working with the affordable housing developer. And then I wanted to get in touch with my roots, so I moved back to India, but I lived in Mumbai for about 7 or 8 months. And then from there, I moved back to Boston to pursue my graduate studies. And then from there, I got my first job at University of Toronto. and became a professor, and that's how I found my way to Toronto and then to this class.
In 1 minute.
Okay, so that is my map. Okay, so Kaela, would you like to introduce yourself and do?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Hi everyone. Again, my name is Kaela. My map is much smaller, so I think I'll do it pretty quickly.
Okay, you can give more detail. All right, go for
So
it.
this is my map, a different version, maybe more literal one of just North America. If you interpret it as North America, it's not well drawn, but I was born in Los Angeles, and my mom was in school, and so I only lived there for about a year before moving to New York. I grew up in Westchester, which is like outside of New York City, and went to high school here and grew up in New York. And then I went to Ohio, where I went to college in Oberlin, Ohio, before moving to Oakland, California, where I was a labor organizer for many years. And from Oakland, California, I moved to Toronto, which is my last stop. So that is my map.
Oh, excellent. You have 3 seconds. Well done.
I will hand out some more papers.
Oh, that is the timer. So basically, we're asking you all to make a map of how you got here. We took the prompt to be our life geography. So you are encouraged to do that. But also, if you feel like you had a really interesting route just today and you want to make a map of how you got here just today, that's fine, or the last week. And it doesn't even need to be physical geography. If you want to make a map that shows ideas about how you got here, that's fine. So be as creative as you want. So it's about 6:30, so we'll give you 10 minutes to make this map. And also, as you're making the map, think about this question of what do you hope to learn from the course? And then what we'll do is we'll go around and we'll give you each person 1 minute to present the map, and then you can tell us what you hope to learn from the course, and we will take notes. So thank you. So take 10 minutes, yes. So one thing I wanted to talk a bit about is a concept called the right to research. So you actually have an article, because this is the first class, and we didn't quite have a way of contacting you. We couldn't get the article to you, but now you'll always get the readings in advance. So I'll send this article out, but this is actually the title of an article called, well, the title is The Right to Research, and it's by an anthropologist, a very famous academic named Arjuna Potterai. And in this article, Arjuna Potterai defines this concept of the right to research. And he discusses how, we talk about human rights and we talk about things like the right to housing, the right to education, the right to clean water, but we don't talk about this, this right, the right to research. And so this is a quote from his article where he actually says, by this, and by this he means the right to research. So by this, I mean the right to the tools through which any citizen can systematically increase that stock of knowledge which they consider most vital to their survival as human beings and to their claims as citizens. So this is kind of lofty language, but before I continue, I just wanted to ask, what do you all think of this concept, the right to research? If I were to ask you to take a try at defining it, how would you define it? So perhaps to justify what a person's doing or an action. Any other thoughts about this concept? Yes, so having access to an equal opportunity to actually carry out research, okay? So exactly, so using language to be able to communicate to all sorts of people, even people who might not have access to university or go to university. So to be accessible with information, okay? Okay, to find out the details of your ambition. So to be able to sort of aspire or pursue your goals. Okay, well, it's basically making sure that something like having doing research or accessing information is not a luxury, but that you can always do it when you need to do it. Okay, so knowing what to do when you have a certain question, knowing which tools to use, having access to those tools, doing it the right way to get the answer that you need. Yes, so universities or academia or people that have fancy degrees are thought to hold all the knowledge, and the research they do or the information they put out is valued because of that. But it shouldn't just be that the small group in society is deciding what is knowledge, right? So, okay. So these are all really, really excellent points. And so in the article, which I will send to you and you'll all read, many of these points are made. And so what the article is stating is that this concept of research, we think of it as this very technical expertise, that you need to know how to conduct certain types of projects or use certain types of methods, and that you can only do that research if you have technical training, have gone to university, or have a certain type of degree. And so then what you see happening is that a lot of knowledge that we have about the world and the way it works is coming from this very elite population that had access to that technical training, right? Or that got the credential to say that they were a researcher. And so Apadarai says, well, one, this is problematic because then we have very specific conceptions about how the world works, or very biased views or conceptions about how the world works. And then two, if you don't have access to university or technical training to learn how to do research as it's defined by those same spaces, then how are you able to answer questions that you have about the world? And so very simply, he's sort of redefining research as the ability, and many of you said this, the ability to access information or tools to answer questions that you have about society and your place in it. And it's really the ability to aspire. So if you have a goal or a vision, I mean, many of you spoke about improving the community or improving your life or learning more. So the idea is that the right to research is that you can access what you need to do those things or to fulfill your goals. So he talks about this concept of the capacity building and the right to aspire. So that is what the right to research is. And he says, let's be radical and not think of it as this really technical exercise where, you know, when we think of research, we think of a researcher going and doing a lot of interviews and then summarizing the interviews, or deploying a really large-scale survey, or doing very complicated statistics or analysis, right? And he's saying that research is not always that complicated. Sometimes we can think of it simply as documentation. So telling our own story. So Davar, you talked a lot about sort of storytelling. Many of you said, like, I want to be able to talk about my story. So telling my own stories, or actually making observations about the world around you and systematically writing them down and thinking about them and seeing if you see a pattern. Or I think, Aisha, you had said one of your goals was that you want to be able to access information. So knowing that if you have a question about why something is the way it is, you'll be able to figure out where you need to go to answer that question or access that information. So I bring this concept in this article up because this entire class and the curriculum is really designed around this concept. And as we said when we looked at the schedule, we'll have a workshop in the middle. And I hope in the middle workshop, we can come back to this concept of the right to research, and I'll send the article. So once you read the article, you can think about it even more. And I want you to tell me whether you feel like we are practicing that right or how we could improve practicing that right in this class. So I think you're describing a situation where the technical researchers from the university are coming in here and doing a lot of research by either observing or talking to all, interviewing, going to meetings, surveying.
We're being more like the guinea pig.
Exactly, you're like the subjects. Exactly.
And all that.
Yes, so you're the subjects of the research, yes. But then you don't see what happens to it. So you don't necessarily get the report or the article or see a change from it. So basically, some technical researcher comes, does all this research, learns what tenants want, it's written up, and maybe you see the write-up, maybe you don't, but then you see no change based on what you put. Okay, so I have a couple of comments based on what you all said. So I don't know if this exists in Regent Park, and maybe it's something we can discuss throughout the course, but there's a lot of communities or neighborhoods that sometimes get over-researched a lot because something important is happening there or something trendy is happening there. So for example, Regent Park, obviously, as we know, is one of them because of all the redevelopment. And what I've seen sometimes in neighborhoods or communities like that is some community-based organization or a collective of residents, they will actually create their own research ethics board. And you are only allowed to do research in that neighborhood if the Community Research Ethics Board approves it. So a neighborhood like this, for example, is Red Hook, Brooklyn. I know this because before I moved to Toronto, I did a lot of research in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And Red Hook, Brooklyn, similar to Regent Park, has a lot of social housing. It's also gentrifying very rapidly. There's a lot of interesting urban interventions that people want to research. And so because it was being so over-researched by professors and groups and people coming in, the neighborhood actually came together and started a research ethics board. And if anybody wanted access to the organizations or the people, they needed to submit an ethics protocol. So in the university, when people do research, before they do a research project, they have to submit sort of an ethics form. So they have to describe, this is what my project's about, this is what I'm gonna do, and then people review it to make sure that, okay, this isn't gonna harm anyone and this research is viable, and then you're allowed to go do your research. So going back to this concept of the right to research, perhaps you can implement it also at a community-based level. Why is it just a university that's saying if a research is okay or not? You can also create something like that here. But I've seen different models where different sort of anchor organizations, community organizations that are really involved, they'll come together to create this ethics board. And when a researcher, someone who wants to do research in the community, presents their project, then together that collective of groups decides who owns the data. And then they actually create a memorandum of understanding with the researcher to say, once you do this project, all of us have access to the data, or only these groups have access to the data, or this is what you have to sort of give back to us if you do that. And so this is why this concept becomes important, because if you read something in the news or you read a report and you don't agree with it, and this is kind of the idea behind the class too, is that we hope that through this course, you'll have ideas of how to counter it. So what are different things you can do? What are ways that you can put your opinion out there? How can you contact someone to say, this isn't making sense, or I have a question about this, or I want to see this change? But I will say that there are a lot of neighborhoods in Toronto where researchers work. So there is research being conducted on all parts of the city for sure. So that does happen. It's not just Regent Park. But I understand that Regent Park has a bit of a microscope on it, which is why it's very important for you to counter it in the ways you know. I hear you. I think this is a good segue actually to, so I introduced this concept that we'll keep talking about, and I want you all to keep thinking about how you're exercising your right to research, and what barriers are, and you're bringing up very important barriers. But basically in this class, we're asking you to do a course project. So this is text from the website, which you'll shortly have access to, but I'll just read it to you so you know sort of what's expected of you through the course. So throughout this course, we will discuss different neighborhood issues, and we'll also learn applied skills for the purpose of initiating social or political change in your neighborhood. I know many of you are already change makers. So first, we're going to ask you to choose a neighborhood issue of importance to you and your life, and you may draw from the course content content or your own lived experience. Possible topics include, but are not limited to, affordable housing, access to healthy food, Indigenous issues, climate change, employment, or access to social services. You brought up sort of crime, safety, portrayal in the media. And then, if need be, we're also here to help you find a relevant neighborhood problem to tackle. And then, second, you're gonna select one of the skills from the course that together will contribute to a neighborhood-based project of your choice. And on the final day, which is, we decided, the 21st, we will dedicate it to a peer workshop showcasing your individual products with feedback for how to develop it beyond the course. So an example of a possible project would be writing an op-ed to the Toronto Star on your personal experience of the rental housing crisis, or writing a grant to create a neighborhood youth arts council. These are just examples I'm throwing out there. Or drafting a social media campaign to highlight a neighborhood issue of importance. So here is the list of applied skills that you're going to learn in the next 9 to 10 sessions. So you'll have a workshop on applying for a grant, or writing an op-ed, or writing a letter to a political representative, not representation, or telling your story on social media, or public speaking, or argumentation, conflict resolution, community organizing. So you're learning a lot of skills. You all already have a lot of skills. You can even do some peer-to-peer coaching. And so we want you to think about this. What's something about that you want to tackle, or something about the area that you want to sort of think about and do a project on? And so at the midterm in October, we'll have a workshop to see where you're at, and we'll kind of help each other and share. And then finally in the last class, we'll come back together and you can show us where you're at with the project, and we'll help you develop it. So that is sort of the plan and the idea and the philosophy for the course. So you're not expected to be doing a ton of research or writing a research paper. But if we go back to sort of what the right to research means, it means sort of telling your own story, documenting things in your environment. It doesn't need to be technical. And so the idea is the project is you doing something that you care about in the neighborhood. And so I know you've already done projects like this. Like I know you've organized a women's group. So that, for example, is the type of project we're thinking about. So perhaps you want to write a grant to raise money for it, or perhaps you want to share the story of the women's group on social media. So it can really be anything. Any other examples or ideas or thoughts about the project?
Well, I think so what we agreed on, the October 17th day, will also be like perhaps a moment to like brainstorm together if you're still thinking about it, and also time to actually just like in class work together on perhaps like writing an outline or being able to like mobilize it if it feels like there's no time outside of this class to work on it. So I think it shouldn't be like, it shouldn't like hang over your head in any way. It should certainly just be like part of the class and thinking of what, you know, at that point there'll be a couple of lectures, perhaps thinking about the substance of those lectures and incorporating it into a project.
Yeah, this shouldn't be like, we're not expecting you to do an enormous amount of homework after each session to do the project. It's something you care about. All of you said things that you want to learn and develop. And so it's us holding you accountable for doing something. So I know a lot of you said you want to develop leadership skills. So perhaps your project, you could think about, okay, what can I do that will help me develop those leadership skills? Maybe you are going to go to a community meeting and talk in public about an issue and you want to write your notes. Or maybe you want to try to share something through some form of media, you know, so that's what the project is about. And we'll help you sort of along the way.
Write it in cue cards. It's clear.
Sure, you could write it in cue cards. We could help you write like if you want to make like a small speech somewhere, we could help you write the speech. There'll be some people here giving workshops on argumentation and how to like really write well or make an argument well. It's very similar. You pick something that you care about, you pick a skill that you want to practice, and you see us sort of as people to help you access things. As your coaches, we're trying to help you implement the right to research. Like, we want everyone to feel like they can access the information they need to access to do what they want to do. So what I will do is I will send out an email to everybody in the course, so that way you'll have my email. I'll share Kaela's email as well. And I will put a link to the course site. I will attach these slides. You can also find the slides on the course site. And I will share the Right to Research article, and I will also share the articles for next week. So you'll have everything. Once everyone verifies that they clicked the course site link and they saw everything and could access everything, I'll probably send you less emails and just keep putting things on the course site. And then Bauer will send the video of class. We'll post that on the course site so you can access it. And I think that's all you need from me right now.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. And for more information, please visit our website.